Happy holidays from your friends at the DCPU. I'm Frank, and my co-host is named, Captain Sparklefingers.
No, it's not. No, it's not. That's not my name.
Today, we're looking at the only 2019 release in the DCEU, Shazam.
Shazam had actually appeared on television twice, with a live-action series in the 1970s and an animated series in the 1980s, but he had yet to grace the silver screen. New Line Cinema was working on developing a Shazam live-action feature film all the way back in the early 2000s. There were several screenplay drafts written by William Goldman, Alex Sokolow, and Joel Cohen, Brian Goluboff, and John August. John August's script was the one that was chosen, and the film went into pre-production in 2008. Some of August's other scripts include Titan AE, Charlie's Angels, Big Fish, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Corpse Bride, Dark Shadows, Frankenweenie, and Aladdin. So clearly he has some pretty good projects under his belt, even by the time this project was occurring, because only the last 3 of those were made after 2008. And additionally, he seems like a pretty talented person, because in addition to being a scriptwriter, he has a podcast with Craig Mazin, he's a book author, he writes music and songs for his films that get nominated for Grammys, and he executive produced the Prince of Persia Sands of Time movie.
The one with Jake Gyllenhaal?
Yeah.
Okay. I actually listened to that podcast. It's called Script Notes. It's pretty good.
Is it actually currently running? Because sometimes I feel like I hear about a podcast, and then they're like, yeah, he has a podcast, and I go look, it hasn't had an episode in years.
No, they still put out new episodes.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't listen every week, but if the topic interests me, I'll listen to it.
I'm gonna have to check that out, because it sounds interesting. And I think I do remember that Titan AE was one of those CGI 3D movies, one of the first ones, all the way back in the early 2000s. I feel like that's a core memory of my childhood, is seeing ads for it on TV.
Yeah, you're right, 2000. I never watched this, but I'm looking at pictures of it now, and it kind of reminds me of Treasure Planet.
I remember this poster. I kind of like that animation style. Welcome back to the Titan AE podcast,
where in each episode, we break down one frame of the film. We'll be done in 5 years.
It's just pure black for the first frame. What do you think about this one, Frank?
I think it speaks a lot about both death and birth.
Join us on the next episode, which coincidentally is also a black frame.
Also black.
I think I would have liked to see what this version of the film would have looked like with August's script, because I feel like he has a pretty interesting filmography, and he's worked with Tim Burton on several of these films, which to me is kind of a big accomplishment in and of itself. So I think it would have been interesting to see it.
You just put the idea into my head, but a Tim Burton Shazam movie, that would have been interesting, wouldn't it?
I think I could kind of see it. It's kind of has that weird quirk to his powers that I think Tim Burton might find some spark of creativity in.
I can see it, yeah. I mean, especially if it's more like Big Fish, Tim Burton, and less Beetlejuice or Alice in Wonderland.
It would have been Johnny Depp as Shazam, and then Helena Bonham Carter would have been Mary.
Oh man, Johnny Depp as Shazam is such a cursed image.
We're gonna Photoshop that later. Peter Segal was attached as the director of the film, and this is where the famous casting of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Black Adam came from, as he was in talks to appear in the film, all the way back in 2007. Some of Peter Segal's directorial work includes Tommy Boy, Anger Management, 50 First Dates, The Longest Yard, Get Smart, and the My Spy series of films. Which to me, this is a 50-50, because some of those are good, but then some of those are just Adam Sandler movies. I don't know.
Hey, come on, don't diss Adam Sandler.
I shouldn't judge. You're right.
I like Adam Sandler. I think he's great. I love, I just watched 50 First Dates for the first time a few months ago, and the premise is a little creepy, but I like the movie. Do you know the premise of that?
Yeah, I haven't seen the whole movie, but I did see part of it on TV, probably a month or two ago, and he's like, yeah, I know you have amnesia. I really want to date you. He just keeps introducing himself to her day after day.
Yeah, but it's kind of sweet, Anyway,
welcome to the 50 First Dates podcast,
where each episode is a date with us, Frank and Thomas.
We like long walks on the beaches.
However, problems started to arise when New Line Cinema was absorbed into the Warner Brothers Picture Group after the failure of the film The Golden Compass. Due to the success of The Dark Knight and the commercial failure of Speed Racer in 2008, the studio wanted August to rewrite the film to be darker and more serious. I fucking love Speed Racer. Also, why would you make Shazam darker and more serious? Come on now.
Because The Dark Knight just made $1 billion. Actually, probably not that much, but...
There's a huge difference between The Dark Knight and a kid's movie about a little kid that gets superpowers.
But they're both DC movies. I feel like around that time is when movies actually did kind of get gritty and dark. So maybe they were just trying to go with the times.
That's true. There's the Dark Knight trilogy, which did not help. Iron Man also, is more grounded and less comic booky. and probably the X-Men films, with their most iconic line, "What were you expecting, yellow spandex?" And that was back in like 2000, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was just, I guess, a decade where most people were embarrassed to be making loud, bright, colorful, fun superhero films, with the exception being Sam Raimi. God bless him.
They still never really processed 9/11.
Honestly, I mean, we could do, not for this show, but there is a discussion to be had about, like, 9/11 and the War on Terror and how that influenced the Dark Knight trilogy. Because I think there are very strong lines to be drawn between those two things.
Like the Batmobile being a tank.
The whole trilogy has a focus on terrorism and how Batman is like this tactical operator with all this expensive military equipment, and then in the Dark Knight there's the whole surveillance state aspect of it, which kind of ties into like the Patriot Act. But that is not that's not a discussion for this show. But the parallels are there. Anyways, in 2009, August departed the project, detailing some of it on his blog. A funny moment in his blog post said that Warner Brothers would give him notes, quoting that they wanted Black Adam to appear much earlier in the film. August pointed out that Black Adam appeared on page 1, but never got a response.
He doesn't appear in the first sentence!
That is so funny. Just the studio notes people, like, not reading it at all. Just whipping up notes out of thin air.
I wonder if they just wanted to cancel it, and were just like, yeah, make it darker, I don't know.
And in August 2009, not to be confused with August in 2009, it was reported that Bill Birch and Jeff Johns were being picked to write the screenplay, with Siegel remaining attached as the director.
When I was looking up info for this, I couldn't find any script writing credits for Bill Birch online, and it seems like he's just an actor. He was in like a couple episodes here and there, like one episode of Grey's Anatomy. I think it's kind of an interesting choice to pick to write what they're hoping to be a blockbuster film. I feel like we've been saying that a lot in this series.
Yeah, you're right. We just talked about this 2 weeks ago with the Justice League being put into the hands of these two writers who just did a couple episodes of a PBS show.
And this one's arguably worse because this guy doesn't even have anything that he wrote.
Yeah. Next time it'll just be somebody who hasn't written or acted in anything.
An illiterate 17-year-old kid.
Yeah, next time it's going to be a child they just pull off the street.
A monkey with a typewriter.
Yeah, that's where things will eventually go, is a monkey with a typewriter. In August 2010, the LA Times reported there were rumblings of nixing the film in favor of a TV show instead. In the article, they mentioned that writers wanted to impose a 1-hour time limit on Billy Batson's transformations, to add more urgency and reason for him not being in his adult form all the time. This is very Ben 10 of them to do, and I'm honestly not against the idea.
I think when I first read it, I was against it, but thinking about it more, it does make a bit more sense.
For the structure of a TV show and, to help create tension, I do like it, yeah.
I feel like if that aspect was present in this movie, it would have been a bit better, especially in the last act.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll get into that later. Finally, the nail in the coffin came in a 2013 interview with ComingSoon.net, in which director Peter Segal confirmed that the project was no longer going to happen. He cited the fact that the character was too similar to Superman, whose film Man of Steel had just come out, which meant that there really wasn't room for a Shazam movie. And then, in April 2014, Warner Brothers revealed that a Shazam film was in development at New Line Cinema, as well as a Metal Men movie, a Fables movie, and a 100 Bullets movie.
A Fables movie would have been cool. I'm curious about that.
It's the only time I've ever heard it mentioned, so I don't think it's happening.
Well, it's been 11 years. I think it's safe to assume it's not happening.
You know what's gonna happen is what usually happens when we record this is we're gonna go to put it out, and then like on Saturday it's gonna be like Fables movie coming out, and then we're, god damn it.
Yeah, fucking Fables HBO series. Yeah, I mean that's happened to us a bunch of times. When we did Batman v Superman, we mentioned the Jimmy Olsen TV show idea, and then they dropped that like 2 days before we put out the episode. It happened to us with the Suicide Squad episode. We put it out like coincidentally on the same day as some big air cut push on social media. And when we were talking about Justice League and the buyout from AT&T, that's when Netflix announced their bid to acquire Warner Brothers.
So welcome to the DC Manifesting podcast universe, where we bring new light to the DC universe.
The DC prescient you.
Leave a comment down below what you'd like us to manifest for you.
Yeah. Tell us what you want to see in reality, and we will talk about it and make it so.
And if you really want us to talk about it, slip us a 20.
Yeah. We'll make a Patreon, okay?
In an interview with Variety, Dwayne Johnson revealed he was still involved with this new film, although he was unsure if he wanted to play the hero Shazam or the villain Black Adam. A funny quote from the article, he added that his favorite DC Comics character is Black Adam. Then why are you having trouble deciding who you want to play?
Also, whose favorite DC character is fucking Black Adam? I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that for a second. Nobody's fucking favorite character is Black Adam. Come on, get real. The only reason why he said that is because he vaguely looks like him and he wants a movie.
He saw someone fan cast him as Black Adam once and he's like, bro, that's me.
That's literally what happened. That's literally it. And by September 2014, The Rock had finally made his choice and was set to play Black Adam in the film. It was also announced that Darren Lemke would write the script for Shazam. Darren Lemke's other writing credits include Lost, his own movie, not the TV show, Shrek Forever After, Turbo, Goosebumps, Gemini Man, the Wheel of Time TV show, and Kung Fu Panda 4.
Writing this, I did notice, I was like, a lot of kids' movies, but then also, I guess, like, Shazam kind of is a kids' movie, because it has a kid in it, so.
Totally a kids' movie. Absolutely. On January 19th, 2017, Boris Kitt of The Hollywood Reporter revealed that Henry Gayden was rewriting Lemke's script. The article also revealed that Wayne Johnson's Black Adam was getting his own movie.
Can you reread that? You said Wayne.
Oh, whoops.
Wayne Johnson.
Wayne the Brock Johnson. The article also revealed that Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam was getting his own movie. Henry Gayden's only movie before working on Lemke's script was Earth to Echo.
I did think it was really funny to me doing the research how much of the production history behind this movie revolves around Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam. Like, pretty much every article that I was looking at mentioned him being in the film. And then now he's just getting his own movie before Shazam is even looking to shoot. And it's funny because, you know, it's not even his movie. He's gonna play Black Adam.
And he's not even that big of a Hollywood star at this point. Like, he's done Hollywood comedies and stuff and family movies, but like, he's not as big as he is now, right?
No, this is definitely after Moana.
2017?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
I think it was 2016 or 2017.
It was 2016. That's a voice role. That's a voice role. What has he actually done?
This is kind of like midway up his like big climb to fame.
I don't disagree with that. But fuck. Okay, hold on. We're talking 2017. So, Fate of the Furious, Baywatch. Okay, never mind. He was totally a movie star already. Central Intelligence, San Andreas, Furious 7, Furious 6, Pain and Gain. Okay, I take it all back. Pain and Gain is one of the best movies ever made, by the way. But when I think of him around this time, in my head, I'm still thinking of The Tooth Fairy.
That was like 2008, dude.
I know. I have no perception of time. To me, 2017 and the film The Tooth Fairy are basically right next to each other.
Despite being 10 years apart.
Yeah, so in February 2017, Variety reported that David F. Sandberg was in talks to direct Shazam. Sandberg had just made Lights Out for New Line the previous summer, netting $150 million on a $5 million budget. Hot damn. He was also directing Annabelle 2 for New Line.
What return is that? Like 1,000% or something? Because that's insane.
It's 30 times the budget.
Oh my god, I feel really dumb now. I said 1,000 times. It's 5 times 3 is 15.
As a side note, David F. Sandberg's got a really great YouTube channel called Pony Smasher. He shares a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff and information, stories pertaining to his studio career and indie filmmaking. Just a really great resource.
I didn't know he had a YouTube channel. I just knew his name from like Instagram.
Oh yeah, it's a big channel. It's got like tons of videos with super useful information. I think he's got like 400,000 subscribers or something.
Does he still make them?
Yeah.
Oh,
he
cool.
puts out little short films on there and then does like behind the scenes stuff. He just did that Until Dawn movie and he was posting behind the scenes stuff on his YouTube.
Oh, is that okay? I feel like I did know that, but I forgot. That's kind of useful. I feel like you don't get that a lot on YouTube.
Yeah, from a real legit filmmaker who's hit it big. You never see that.
And not just like behind the scenes footage of them like making the movie, but actually like going into it.
No, I remember back in the day, I watched a Pony Smasher video where he was talking about how they did some of the special effects on Shazam, and they were using like masking to hide the crew in the mall scene so that they looked like shoppers by putting like bags over boom mics and cameras and stuff, like shopping bags, because they couldn't get the crew out of the shot. It's a good channel.
In an interview with Yahoo Movies, Jeff Johns revealed that Dwayne Johnson's character wouldn't be in the Shazam film after all. Instead, the intention was to build both Shazam and Black Adam up through their own movies, then have them clash later down the road. Which I guess isn't a horrible idea. We might both agree that this might be better to build them up through their own movies instead of having to introduce them both in one movie. But as we see further along in this series, these plans don't even come close to panning out.
I don't hate the idea, but I also don't think it's necessary. You could definitely just have Black Adam be the evil Shazam, which is like a trope that you see in superhero movies a lot, where there's like a movie where the villain is just a mirrored version of the hero. I mean, look at Man of Steel with Zod. You don't need Zod to have his own movie. It's not an inherently terrible idea. It might be taking a release date from a project that might be more deserving of existing. But what really is funny to me about this is that DC was willing to let Shazam and Black Adam build up in separate projects before crossing over, but they couldn't afford that same luxury to Batman or half of the fucking Justice League for that matter. That is the funny part to me.
It could be in response to that.
Okay, yeah, maybe.
I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Out of all the characters that are slated to appear, I just think Black Adam should have been the lowest rung on people to get their own solo projects. At least in this order, Jesus.
And think about it now, too. If they did want to do a Black Adam movie, they could have introduced him first in Shazam as the villain, and then he could have his own movie after the fact.
Yeah, or make it a prequel. Do what they did with, like, I don't know, Black Widow or Wonder Woman even.
In July 2017, David F. Sandberg was confirmed to be directing the film, which would shoot in 2018 and aim for a 2019 release. And interestingly, in 2022, Sandberg did a Q&A on Instagram where he revealed that he had actually been in the running for Sony's Venom movie. However, he decided on doing Shazam because he liked the concept and story, and it allowed him to work with people he liked and had worked with before at New Line.
Thank God he didn't do Venom. I mean, I guess the Venom movie would have been better, but I think Shazam worked really well with him here. And I also just don't know how much of the Venom solo movie could be salvaged in the first place.
That's true.
Considering the fact they couldn't reference Spider-Man at all.
Warner Brothers stated that the film would be inspired by Jeff Johns' own run on the character, along with the artist Gary Frank, that was published during the New 52 era, which featured a modernization of the character's classic origin.
And finally, we get to casting. Zachary Levi won the role of Shazam, but other names mentioned include John Cena, Zane Holtz, Jake McDorman, Derek Thieler, and Billy Magnuson. John Cena as Shazam. I could see it.
I don't know if I can.
I think I could see it, but I'm glad we ended up getting him later on as Peacemaker instead.
Yeah, I think he fits the role of Peacemaker better than I could picture him as Shazam.
I wonder if there's any fan art. All the fan art of John Cena as Shazam looks like that Photoshop picture of Low Tier God with the lightning around his eyes. I wonder if they were going to cast John Cena because Black Adam was going to be The Rock, and they wanted to make it like a wrestling thing.
It could be. I could see that. Kind of get like sort of like rivalry built into the casting.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, John doesn't really have a Hollywood career at this point outside of the WWE produced movies. I mean, of course he is, as everyone knows, Fred's dad in Fred the movie. And I don't know if anybody knows, and maybe we're just old. Maybe some people don't even know who Fred is anymore, but do yourself a favor, audience, and look up clips of Fred the movie with John Cena. It's just John playing his dad, but he's just himself, and he's beating the shit out of Fred in every single scene. He's like throwing him through walls and stuff.
It's kind of funny that somehow out of all of these names mentioned, it seems like they got the biggest one in Zachary Levi. Besides John Cena.
Yeah, besides John Cena. Because he was Chuck, right? He had his own sitcom.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if you'd call it a sitcom, but that ran for like 5 years.
He had his own TV show, we'll put it at that.
And for Dr. Sivana, Mark Strong was cast in the role. And if there's a DC franchise out there, Mark Strong will inevitably be there. He was Sinestro in the 2011 Green Lantern film, and he's also young Carmine Falcone in 2024's The Penguin miniseries on HBO.
Should we manifest his role in the DCU right now?
Yeah, immediately my mind goes to Brainiac. When I look at him, it kind of reminds me of Brainiac from Injustice 2. He's kind of got like a similar voice and like head shape, from my recollection anyway. I don't know who else could he be in the DCU. I don't know who he's going to be, but he's going to be in the DCU.
And you can quote him on that.
That's a quote. That's the official scoop from the DCPU. Mark Strong will appear at some point as somebody in the DCU franchise.
It's locked in. He's Brainiac.
He's Brainiac, folks. We can only manifest it when we don't know.
That's true.
Like, we didn't know the Jimmy Olsen show was coming. We didn't know that Netflix
James Gunn listens to our
buy
podcast and he goes, "Fuck that! Who's their insider?"
David Zaslav listens to the show. Asher Angel was cast as Billy Batson, but Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things was also auditioning for the part, which is kind of funny because the guy who plays Freddy is one of his It co-stars, so there would have been a little It reunion here. Ron Cephas Jones was originally cast as the Wizard, but was later replaced by Jaimin Hansu due to scheduling conflicts. In an Easter egg appearance, Andy Osho reprises her role as social worker Emma Glover from Sandberg's debut film Lights Out. And if we're going to be talking about Easter eggs, there's also an Annabelle doll in the pawn shop scene near the beginning of the movie. I don't know if you saw that.
I did not, but I do remember people talking about that.
It's a blink and you miss it thing.
Wasn't she in Aquaman too, when they were in the shipping container?
I don't know. Yeah, she was. completely missed it.
Hearing about that just brought that back to my brain.
Finally, after over 10 years of production woes, cameras would begin rolling for Shazam on January 29, 2018. Most of the film was shot in Toronto, although there were some scenes shot later in Philadelphia, where the film is set. Filming wrapped by mid-May 2018, with the film set to release on March 28, 2019. Now, let's talk about that release date, because it's one of the strangest choices they could have made with the production of this movie. As we talk about the state of movies, DC, and the characters at release, we're going to be looking at films releasing around the same time, which include Captain Marvel, Dumbo, Pet Sematary, Hellboy, and Avengers Endgame. Releasing this movie at the same time of the year as Captain Marvel and Avengers Endgame is insane. Sure, Captain Marvel released on March 8th, so it was out for about a month before Shazam, but Endgame came out on April 26th, 21 days after the release of Shazam. This movie didn't even get a whole month to itself before it was thrown out of theaters to accommodate more showings of the 3-hour-long climax of Marvel's entire efforts. I can't fathom why DC thought putting this here was a good idea. Between such major competition and the fact that this was their only movie for the year, they basically sent it out to die. Sure, it made its money back, and we'll talk about that later, but it probably could have made so much more if they released it at literally any other point in the year.
I guess, because Aquaman came out in December, but this is literally like a Christmas movie.
Yes!
So they could have flip-flopped. I mean, I don't know.
Why didn't they just put this at Christmas? Who was in charge of this?
And let's get into a little history about Captain Marvel and Shazam here, because he's not that well known of a character. Shazam, aka Captain Marvel, was originally a Fawcett Comics character with a popular comic strip. Billy Batson, an orphaned 12-year-old boy, was granted powers by a wizard from 6 immortal elders: Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, and Mercury. When he speaks the wizard's name, Shazam, he transforms into an adult superhero. His first appearance was in Wiz Comics number 2 in February of 1940. In 1941, Detective Comics, or DC, sued Fawcett Publications, alleging that Captain Marvel was based on Superman. A lengthy court case ensued where, long story short, Fawcett was found to have copied Superman, and they settled with DC out of court in 1951, paying $400,000 and agreeing to cease publication of all Captain Marvel-related comics, which $400,000 in 1951 would be the equivalent of $4,977,778 today, which sounds like a lot of money back then.
It does.
DC later revived Captain Marvel in the 1970s, but they were unable to call him Captain Marvel due to Marvel establishing a comic book trademark for their own Captain Marvel character in 1967. Therefore, the book had to be published under the title Shazam.
And like we mentioned earlier, Jeff Johns would write a Shazam backup in the New 52 Justice League comic series, starting with issue number 7. This new series introduced changes to the character, like Billy having 6 siblings instead of 3, which was introduced in Flashpoint, and rooting the character more in fantasy and magic than ever before. Thomas, do you want to explain what a backup is?
So it was a backup in Justice League, and it would basically be like a story after the main story. So it's kind of like a second bonus story at the end of the comic issue.
Around this time, they also officially renamed the character to Shazam, because that's just how a lot of people knew him. And it also solves the nightmare of dealing with Captain Marvel as a name in any capacity that they need to deal with, so good move there.
Kind of surprised it took that long.
Yeah, I mean, if you've renamed the book Shazam, and you're still calling him Captain Marvel in the book, I don't know, yeah, why make it complicated for yourself? Although this initial run informed the direction the film took, Shazam also got a new series in late 2018 to coincide with the film's release. The series, also written by Jeff Johns, followed the Shazam family exploring their powers and having adventures. Other things happening in DC Comics around this time included the introduction of the Batman Who Laughs.
Our favorite.
Is a character I personally hate, but he's very popular. The Batman 80th Anniversary Giant One-Shot. The Year of the Villain series of one-shots. I don't know what that is. You want to elaborate?
It was basically just, I think it was 1 month. It was either 1 month or like they'd release a couple every month. But it was just one-shots of villain stories. I'm not exactly sure if they were like origin stories or if they were just stories leading up to like a big crossover or what, but
that's fun. The Batman City of Bane event, and the Event Leviathan event series. Now, what's that?
I believe that was Brian Michael Bendis's big, mystery story he was trying to tell at the time.
It is Bendis, let's see.
I don't know if we've talked about it, but I think it's funny how hard they went in on getting Brian Michael Bendis, and he did, jack shit at DC that anyone remembers. And now he's not even with them anymore.
Yeah, well, they pay better than Marvel, from what we've understood in previous episodes.
It's true. I know he's done a lot at Marvel, because he created Miles Morales.
Yeah, he was the writer of Ultimate Spider-Man. Great book. I mean, it's aged in a weird way, but it's just kind of become like a time capsule of 2000s writing, because the story takes place in 2000 when the book was published and goes forward in real time.
In the film, TV, and animation realm, while Shazam was the only theatrical film for DC in 2019, they released 6 animated films. Reign of the Supermen, which was a follow-up to 2018's Death of Superman. Justice League vs. the Fatal Five, which was actually kind of related to / a semi-continuation of the Justice League Unlimited TV show. Batman vs. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Batman Hush, Teen Titans Go vs. Teen Titans, and Wonder Woman Bloodlines. 2019 was also a big year for DC television. The final season of Krypton aired, which, do you remember Krypton?
No.
It started as like a spin-off of Man of Steel, but then they were like, oh, actually no, it's not connected at all. And then it only got 2 seasons. It was on Sci-Fi.
Developed by David S. Goyer.
Yeah, it's about like Superman's great-great-great-grandpa or something. And I guess it does it had like the second season has Brainiac and then Doomsday, I think. And people said that Doomsday was like the best Doomsday in movie or TV.
Yeah, I had no idea this existed. DC's got a lot of weird shows like that. They had like that Alfred Pennyworth show that was exclusive to the streaming service Epix.
That's the Alfred show is a prequel to Gotham, I believe.
Okay. Exclusive to Epix.
Yeah, Epix. And as usual, the Arrowverse was going strong with its like half a dozen or so TV shows. Titans Season 2 launched in 2019. The new Doom Patrol show released in 2019. The Swamp Thing show was released, which I've heard was actually really good.
And canceled.
Yeah, and then canceled because of tax fuckery.
It was canceled before the first episode aired or something.
The whole thing was they thought that they were getting like $500 million in tax breaks from like West Virginia or something, and then they were like, oh no, that was a mistake, you're not getting like any money. And then they were like, so we just spent all this money and you're not gonna give us tax breaks on it. But I've heard it was actually a really good show.
It always looked good.
The costume looked really good.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
Finally, the last show in the DC lineup was the Watchmen Limited series, which I don't know if you watched that.
I did watch that, and I think it's pretty damn good, actually. Now we get into our plot synopsis and discussion. In 1974, upstate New York, young Thaddeus Savannah is riding in a car with his abusive father and elder brother Sid during a snowstorm, being mocked and verbally harassed by them constantly. He's suddenly transported to the Rock of Eternity, not to be confused with Dwayne Johnson, the Rock of Eternity, a mystic temple located in another dimension. There, Thaddeus meets the ancient wizard Shazam, who spent centuries searching for someone pure of heart, upon whom to bestow his powers and name as champion after his previous one unleashed the 7 deadly sins. I wonder who that was. Thaddeus is tempted by the sins, who promise him power if he frees them. The wizard deems Thaddeus unworthy and magically returns him to the car. His frustration and confusion lead to a crash, resulting in his father becoming paraplegic and even more resentful towards him. The sins send Thaddeus a message via his 8-ball toy, telling him to find them. Ooh, that's a lot. And that only makes up 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, it's kind of long. I was debating trying to put it together, but whatever.
This is like 20% of the plot synopsis on Wikipedia, and it's not even 10 minutes of the film.
It's a good opening, though.
It is a really good opening. This part kind of reminded me, and I guess a lot of the movie reminds me of Chris Columbus. He directed Home Alone and Harry Potter 1 and 2.
I can kind of see that, because it has its dark moments, but for the most part, it's pretty light.
It's like a fantasy, it's Christmassy, it's about kids. I love when a family in a movie bullies the shit out of one of the youngest kids. It's so funny. And that happens in Home Alone. The rest of his family are assholes to him. And it happens in Harry Potter with his uncle and aunt and his shitty cousin.
I like too how there's really no reason to bully him. They're just like, you're a fucking nerd. You should die.
Yeah. And even the wizard gets in on the bullying.
The set design for the Rock of Eternity looks really good.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It looks like it's actually in a cave. And I also noticed when he looks at the rock.
The orb.
The orb.
Okay, we can't say the Rock because all it's going to do is invoke images of Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
When Savannah looks at the blue orb thingy, it reflects in his glasses in his right eye.
Ah, foreshadowing. That's clever. I didn't catch that.
I really like how they think that they escape a crash, and then they sit in the road, and then just get hit by a snow plow, and then he's go fly through the air.
I almost think that was supposed to be funny because the music kicks in right after that.
It made me think of like a horror movie, because that's almost something that would happen in a horror movie.
Yeah, you get the build up, the fake out, and then boom, the actual scare.
And then my last note for this section is when they get out and they're like, Dad, where are you? And he's laying in the road and he's like, you did this. I'm like, dude, were you wearing your seatbelt?
Yeah. Like I said, they're just bullying the shit out of him for no reason. He probably gets locked under the stairs, just like Harry Potter.
In present-day Philadelphia, 14-year-old foster child Billy Batson continually runs away from foster homes in search for his birth mother, whom he has been seeking ever since being separated from her at a carnival 10 years ago. He locks some police officers in a pawn shop to use their computer to locate her, but is unsuccessful. A social worker places Billy in a group home run by Victor and Rosa Vasquez. They both had been in the system and have 5 other foster children: Mary, Pedro, Eugene, Darla, and Freddie.
I think that the pawn shop scene and like the doorstep dialogue with the flashback of the carnival, I thought that was a really good introduction to Billy and everything we need to know about him as an audience.
Mm-hmm. And then it's kind of bookended with he's like, I think you're my mother, and then opens the door. It's just this like African American lady. She's like, are you sure about that? And he's like, never mind.
Yeah, that was a good punchline.
But yeah, I like how it frames. You kind of get the story in like a minute or two.
Yeah, you set up his character, why he's the way he is, what he wants pretty well. Yeah, pretty effective presentation there.
And I kind of like how it comes back to that flashback later and reframes a little bit, which we can go into later. But
yeah, I'm always a sucker for when movies reframe flashbacks. Rian Johnson does that a lot. I think it happens in literally every Knives Out movie and The Last Jedi. I just have a note about the social worker. I wrote down her line there: I won't have you living on the street looking for someone who never looked for you. That was really good. That was a nice little line there.
Throughout the whole movie, I kind of like how his backstory is like looking for his mom while ignoring all like these foster families that are doing such nice things for him. And I feel like it kind of shows that blind delusion that kids have, because they can be so naive about something. Like, clearly his mom abandoned him, but he's like, no, I just gotta find her. She lost me. I gotta find my way back to her, and then we can live together.
Yeah, he's still a kid, so it makes sense that he would be this delusional about it and be such a little shithead to the people that are actually trying to help him.
I also have, why doesn't he ask Batman to find his mom? Is he stupid?
Yeah, you should just go whip out the bat signal.
The only other thing I have is I like how they portray Freddy as like a big superhero fan, because it gives us that hint of a larger universe. Like, he's wearing the Aquaman shirt, he has like Superman toys, he's got the bullet from Superman.
He's got the replica Batarang.
Yeah, it's just like a neat kind of way to tie it into the universe as a whole, but not be too upfront about it, I guess.
I thought that was a really fun way of characterizing him. I don't know if that's how he is in the comics or anything, but it's really interesting because it sort of gives the universe credibility by having someone in it who's as obsessive about these characters as maybe the movie-going audience are. It's also fun to see that they are actually making merchandise for these characters in universe. Who do you think's in charge of that, Bruce Wayne?
I don't know. I think it's a funny idea, but also it's kind of crazy because you have Batman who was like branding criminals and basically getting them sent to death, and then like, do you want this 4-foot-tall action figure of Batman?
We'll just quickly run through the other kids. Mary, she's the oldest. She's kind of like an older sister. She's going away to college, maybe. We've got Pedro. His only personality trait is that he works out, although I don't think we ever see him do it. He barely fucking talks, and I think later it's inferred that he's gay, which, okay, whatever. We've also got Eugene, who's a gamer. He's got like a Razer headset. He's a little hyperactive. Darla, the most adorable child ever put to screen. She's so goddamn cute.
I just want to punch her.
She's like she's like a little nerd. God, what is wrong with you? And then, yeah, Freddy. And I feel like Freddy is like the one comic relief sidekick guy in the chair character that actually works well for me. Like, I thought Freddy was pretty funny for the entire movie. He never got on my nerves the way that other comic relief characters would.
Yeah, he doesn't have like many jokes where they're like, okay, he's just doing a bit too much, and then there's actually some depth to him too, but then also, you know, he's not in it so much where it's gonna be like they're over showing him or whatever.
Yeah, he's self-deprecating, which is normally something that annoys me in movies, but, you know, he's a foster child who has a disability and has no friends. So obviously, self-deprecation is totally a way for him to just cope with it, and it works. I also think it's just a really solid performance from Jack Dylan Grazer.
No, I agree with that. I was about to say, I think he plays the role really well. He's probably my favorite of the kids, although I think that I would have actually liked to see more from the others. I didn't feel like we got enough of them throughout the movie.
Yeah, if I had a complaint, I would definitely say that Darla is in it a lot, Freddy is definitely in it a lot, Mary, Eugene a little bit, fucking Pedro might as well not exist. They definitely should have beefed up some of the roles of the kids. And honestly, the foster parents, too. We could have gotten a little more of them. It's mostly about Freddy and Billy.
Yeah, I think overall I would have liked less of like a villain and kind of more of him maybe figuring out his powers. Maybe there can be like a little villain, but I would have liked to see more of him and like the family, because that's what I found myself wanting more of throughout the whole movie. I would have liked to see him kind of get with the family like a bit.
Get with the family? Look, I know they're not related by blood, but you gotta settle down.
I would have liked to see him integrate more into the family, because the way it is now, it feels a bit forced.
It didn't feel forced to me, but it did feel like that was also, for me, the part of the movie that I cared the most about. Like, I was all in on the found family trope and having him integrate, yeah, like you said, with the rest of the kids and the foster parents. And I cared way less about the Savannah 7 Deadly Sins stuff, for sure. You make an interesting point there. The idea of making the movie with no villain, with no big bad guy in the third act. That could have worked for this, because so much of the movie is about him just discovering his powers and getting to know these people. And if we had more time to focus on the family stuff and the family conflict, then yeah, maybe we didn't need a big dumb final act fight like they always have. Although maybe that's something the studio mandated.
Probably. I definitely have thoughts on that later.
My only other note here before we go back to Savannah is we also get a reference to Game of Thrones and Harry Potter when they're giving the tour of the house, which I made a note of because they're both Warner Brothers properties. And I just think it's really great how not only are they being self-referential with the DC merchandise in the movie and the DC superfan, but they also have a reference to Game of Thrones and Harry Potter. They're really cramming in those Warner Brothers references. They're really getting the most out of it. Later on, there's also a scene with Mortal Kombat, so...
At least it didn't... Well, at least to me, it didn't feel like super forced.
No. I just wrote it down because I thought it was a fun little thing. Like, oh, hey, they own these properties and they're working them into it in a way that feels natural. Like you said with Freddy being a super fan, and Eugene's a gamer, so of course he's going to be playing Mortal Kombat. And it wasn't a knock against the movie. I just thought it was cute. I thought it was a fun little thing. Elsewhere, an embittered Savannah succeeds in his lifelong quest to return to the Rock of Eternity. He becomes the Sin's vessel through a magical orb that replaces one of his eyes, allowing him to easily overpower the wizard. He promptly uses his newfound powers to kill his father, Sid, and Savannah Industries board of directors. Billy defends Freddy from bullies at school and is pursued into a subway car, where he is transported to the Rock of Eternity. The dying wizard chooses him as his new champion. By saying Shazam, Billy transforms into an adult superhero. He then vanishes, leaving his magical staff behind. Every time I read Rock of Eternity, I just get a mental flash of Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Like those memes where it's just the flash of white, and I was just like...
Yes, exactly. Any thoughts on this part?
I kind of liked the idea of thousands of people, maybe not thousands, but at least hundreds, participating in this study about like meeting the wizard under the guise of like mass hysteria. I thought it was kind of an interesting way for him to kind of seek his goal.
I did like that. I thought that was cool. I like when the scientist touches the door and she turns to dust screaming. It makes me sound like a fucking psychopath, but that was just so out of left field. I remember laughing at it in theaters, and it still made me laugh.
I was like, how the fuck is he gonna explain the dusted corpse in his office? Like, hey, can you clean up this lady? She just touched this door and fucking exploded. What did you think of him being able to access the Rock of Eternity from any random door using just like a special little phrase?
It was pretty fast. I feel like maybe, and going back to what we were saying earlier about restructuring the movie, maybe we could have had the middle act focus on Savannah discovering how to open the door, but we're kind of skipping that part, and in the story that we got, he just already is at that end stage of figuring it out. So it was a little quick, a little convenient, but whatever.
Like, I don't hate it necessarily. I agree it felt a little too convenient for me. Like, I know it's magic, but...
It would have been more interesting if Savannah needed Billy to get to the Rock of Eternity. And you could have had more of Savannah as like a regular villain without the powers, and then maybe Billy, by the third act, he has the powers, and you can still have your fight, but it doesn't bleed into so much of the second act.
I did like when Billy was on the subway, and it opens up to the Rock of Eternity, and he's like, hello? And then he like leans over and looks at the subway map, like he's somewhere on the subway.
That was great. Speaking of the subway, I love how this movie incorporates so much of Philadelphia's public transportation. Like, we get the buses and the subway heavily featured, which is really nice, you know? I think it might be the first movie so far that's been set primarily in a real city that's not, like, fake, like Gotham or Metropolis. I guess Wonder Woman had London, but she's kind of jumping all over the place. It just, I don't know, it felt very real in, like, not like a grounded, grimdark way, but like, hey, this is cool. It feels very tangible. I thought it was really funny to see, like, this pixie dust wireframe animation of Black Adam. It's extra funny because we know now these two are literally never going to interact in the franchise.
I did kind of like that flashback with those, though.
No, it doesn't look bad or anything. It's just funny because it's The Rock. I like the scene of Billy sticking up for Freddy, beating the shit out of those bullies. That was great. Again, really, connects us to who he is and what his motivations are, because he only helps Freddy once they start picking on him for not having a mom. So something like connects with him emotionally. Good stuff.
So around this time, it was like 37 minutes in, and I felt like the pacing was actually pretty good for this one, because it didn't feel like it had been 40 minutes, but it also felt like a lot had happened.
Excellent pacing. Like we said earlier, like they set up Billy and they set up the villain both incredibly fast. They walk through the house, they give us our supporting cast, maybe go a little too fast setting up the magic and Savannah getting his powers, but yeah, no, excellent pacing so far. We're nearly an hour in, and compared to some of the other movies in this series, I mean, Wonder Woman, it took like 40 minutes to get out of Themyscira. It took nearly a half hour to get out of Krypton on Man of Steel. This is pretty good.
Freddy helps Billy explore his newfound powers, which include superhuman strength, near invulnerability, super speed, and electrokinesis. By saying Shazam again, he can return to his normal body. Freddy posts viral videos of the new superhero, and Billy starts skipping school to use his powers to busk?
You've never heard of that term before?
No. What the hell is that?
Street busker. A busker. That's like a guy performing on the street for money.
I've never heard that word in my life.
Like one of those guys painted silver, or like somebody playing an instrument.
I just call them like street performers.
Oh, busker. Yeah, it's a term.
Today I learned.
They're not bussin'. Okay, I know where your mind went. That's not what's happening here. That's a very dark turn for this kid's movie to take.
I didn't even say anything.
Yeah. You didn't have to.
He's bussing for money and fame. Billy starts skipping school to use his powers to busk for money and fame. He gets into an argument with Freddy over his irresponsible attitude after accidentally endangering, then saving a bus full of people. I really like this section of the movie. I like how they go into testing his powers.
Absolutely. It was so fun. I mean, everything with the convenience store was super good. The park immediately after, and then you've got this montage where they're running the experiments. So fun. It really does feel like this is exactly what two kids would do if one of them magically got superpowers. It's funny, it's light. Yeah, you see the exact kinds of irresponsible ways that they would start using them. I do think it could be trimmed down a little bit, because over the course of the entire movie, we get a lot of power testing and like these montages of Billy goofing around with his abilities. It happens again later. This feels like a section where maybe they're being a little too brief about it. 'Cause to me, when I was watching, it felt like there was a lot of this. But I liked it. I just don't think the movie should have been over 2 hours. And it does get there by the end. So if they cut down some of this, I think it still would have been effective, but it would have helped the pacing later on.
I was going to say the opposite. I was going to say I would have liked to see more of it, just because I liked their antics, and like him and Freddy just doing crazy shit was really funny. Like when they're stopping in the gas station, he goes, shoot in the face. He goes, yeah, shoot me in the face. Wait, what?
Oh no, I love the gas station part. I just think like later they do like a second montage where they're like recording themselves testing the superpowers and stuff. I didn't hate any of it, but there was a point where I'm like, okay, it's not serving the story anymore.
I just realized that once again, we've run into the plot synopsis being in the wrong fucking order, because it says in the last one that he used his powers to kill his father, and that doesn't even happen because we haven't even reached that in my notes. So.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, no. I've got a note about him throwing his brother out of the boardroom window.
I know, but it said it happened before in the last paragraph, before it even...
Oh, right.
Because, yeah, I thought it was funny, too.
Savannah throwing his brother out of the boardroom window, and the demon biting that guy's head off. I remember laughing at all that in theaters, too, because, again, who would expect that sort of thing?
It was definitely not expected, yeah.
Surprisingly brutal.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, we get, like, the greed sin monster ripping his dad to shreds, which we don't really see, but but I think the implication might actually be worse. You can tell this is made by a guy who does horror movies.
I remember seeing that in theaters, and I was like, this is actually pretty crazy dark for like a superhero, like, kids movie.
Kids movies are like that sometimes. You know, there's just a moment that's surprisingly dark and might scar a child. Sometimes you're watching ants, and then a magnifying glass laser commits genocide against...
God damn it. This is the second or third time you brought up ants in this series.
It's the second time, and I did that on purpose. I'm trying to bring it all together. They're called callbacks, Thomas. But kids movies are like that. Sometimes they just have a random scary scene, like the boat ride in Willy Wonka. When they're arguing, Billy says to Freddy, name one cool sidekick, which I thought was a really great reminder that Robin does not exist in this franchise anymore.
Yeah, I had a note for that too. I said, name one cool sidekick. Not being able to name Robin is a travesty.
Yeah.
During the montage where they're testing his powers and uploading the videos, it like scrolls really fast, and I thought the one video is titled Sir Zaps-a-Lot Finger Flick, and I thought it said Sir Zaps-a-Lot Fingers Chick.
Oh my god.
And I was like, there's no way, like, did they sneak in some raunchy ass video title there? But they didn't. I have a question too here, because at this point, it's a lot of Zachary Levi's Shazam, and we don't get too much Billy Batson for the rest of the movie. But did they feel like the same character to you?
No, they didn't, but I honestly think that was the intention. I think the idea is that when Asher's Billy turns into Levi's Shazam, it's supposed to be like he's way more cocky and arrogant and irresponsible because he's got all these powers. I do understand why people view that as a negative, and if that's what you think, then I totally get it, but I actually didn't have a problem with that, because it kind of plays into the alter ego thing. I liked it.
I didn't have a problem with it. It was just something I noticed. I was like, you know, they don't feel too much similar, so I just wanted to see what your take was on it.
No, they don't. And honestly, I think Asher might be a better actor than Levi, but I don't think Levi's bad in this movie. I think I've heard that in the second movie he's a lot worse, but no, I like that they were separate. Savannah arrives and swiftly defeats Billy with his magic after this, causing him to panic and lose confidence. He escapes only after accidentally discovering that he can fly. He learns his biological mother's location and visits her, only to be heartbroken upon learning she abandoned him at the carnival intentionally after feeling inadequate as a teenage mother and no longer wanting him in her life. That was pretty fucking sad.
There's the flashback being reframed.
Yes, and I thought it worked.
I loved that.
Yeah, I loved it too. I thought it was great.
Especially because they're not that different, but it's literally like the same beat for beat, but it's just they reshot it. Because the first one is very like light, and there's kind of like a glow to it that's like sort of magical or like a cherished memory. And then when they show it this time, it's just like kind of normal lighting, and you can tell that she's actually more frustrated than what she looks like in Billy's memory of her.
Yeah, I think the dialogue might actually be the exact same, and it's all just in her tone.
It's also really sucks because, you know, this is who he's been looking for years, and then he meets her. He's like, finally, my life can go back to being normal, and she's like, yeah, it's, you know, I didn't want you. Like, I left you there. I saw you. I just didn't go back.
Yeah. And I think if there was a version of this, going back to what you mentioned before about like not having a big superpowered villain to fight, this probably would have been the climax of the movie. And it's not. We still have like another act after this. This is like the end of the second act. But yeah, it's nice. And it also, you know, brings him closer to his adopted family by the end, because it's not about who you're related to, it's about who wants you in their lives.
I did kind of also like that the reveal is, I mean, okay, she did a bad thing, but also like it's not like she did it malicious, like, because she said she's like 17 and she had no support. Like, I can understand why she would want to give him up, or maybe like not be his mom, but like also then you like give him to foster care or whatever. You don't just abandon him. But I did kind of like how it was a bit more realistic, I guess.
It's a bit more nuanced, yeah. I mean, she can't be that much older than he is in this movie when the flashback is supposed to take place.
There's definitely some element to like feeling kind of bad for her.
Yeah, she's not like a cartoonishly evil mother.
Yeah, and then I also did kind of like how he gave her the little trinket that she won for him, and she's like, I think you need it more than me.
Yeah.
Definitely a bittersweet moment. Kind of dark, too, for a kid's movie. Not in the same way that the Boardroom Massacre was, but just kind of like actually, your mom didn't love you.
Yeah. Again, like something that might traumatize a child.
The leap off the roof was cool when he transformed. It Kind of gave Dark Knight Returns vibes.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, the cover, where he's the lightning.
Yes. I was thinking of the Dark Knight Rises.
No.
I'm like, what is he talking about?
But then he just said yes and agreed with me, so.
Oh, it's easier than arguing about it.
Savannah deduces Billy's identity and takes his foster siblings hostage. Billy agrees to transfer his powers to him in exchange for their safety. They go to the Rock of Eternity to use the wizard's staff to start the transfer, but the children attack Savannah. Billy observes that Savannah becomes vulnerable when all 7 sins leave his body. Savannah pursues them to a winter carnival and unleashes the sins upon the crowd. Remembering the wizard's words, Billy uses the staff to share his power with his foster siblings, transforming them into adult superheroes like him before he breaks the staff in half. The Shazam family battles against the sins while Billy faces down Savannah. He goads Envy into leaving Savannah powerless and recaptures the sins after forcefully pulling the eye out of Savannah's head. Billy and his foster siblings are hailed as heroes. So, this is pretty much like almost all of the third act, I'd say.
Yeah, this is like the end of the movie.
It went on a little too long for me.
That's what I was trying to say earlier, is I don't have anything against what was being done earlier in the movie, but this third act goes on so long, it pushes the movie over the 2-hour mark, and it should have been a tight 90. I understand the studio probably wanted to keep, the big action stuff for the end, which would mean you got to make some cuts earlier on. Not that I think there's a lot of room for them to cut stuff. And if they were to cut anything, they definitely should have trimmed this down.
It felt very repetitive.
Very repetitive, yes. I really like what's going on here. I love the jokes. I love the Christmas atmosphere. I think it's very pretty. And I do like the other kids helping out when they get their powers. But yeah, it goes on and on and on. I think the adult actors, seeing them try to pull off the personalities of the kid actors was cute. But again, just too much of it. There's a note here that I forgot to say. Before this, Savannah and Shazam are fighting at the mall, and then there's a piano floor sequence, which is a reference to Big, which is very clever because Big is obviously a movie similar to this in its premise. It's a kid becoming a grown-up. You hear like all the off-key notes, and then it's a POV shot of the camera coming up, and Savannah just fucking lunges at him and tackles him through the window. I thought that was funny. But back to the third act, I really don't have any notes besides that.
It just felt very repetitive to me because the whole third act is he transforms, he starts fighting, and then he untransforms, and then he transforms again, and he says some catchphrase, and then it does that 3 times. And also, I wasn't sure how I felt about the other kids getting their powers.
I didn't know that was a thing in the comics, so I was really surprised when it happened when I saw this in theaters, and I also felt kind of on the fence about it. But on the other hand, Justice League was a tremendous failure, and now we have, I guess out of convenience, we have an entire superhero team set up that does work. They've just effectively doubled the amount of heroes in these movies by giving Shazam his own superpowered team. I don't know. It's interesting. I think they try and hint at it by saying there are 7 thrones, and he has the power of all of them, but maybe it could be split up or something. I'd have to rewatch the scene with the wizard.
I think just for me it was I already felt the foster kids, besides Freddy, didn't get that much to do in the movie, and then just kind of rushing this development of, oh, you have powers now. It felt like something that should have been saved for the second movie to me. And then also we would have had more of the spotlight on Shazam himself.
And more of the spotlight on the kid actors too.
Yeah.
Instead of having the third act focus on these adult actors playing the kids. Yeah, I could see where you're coming from with that. I mean, I've been agreeing with you this whole episode about what you mentioned at the very start of the plot synopsis here, where this hypothetical movie where we focus more on the family dynamic, way more and way less on some big bad guy. Yeah, you focus on these kids more, and you might actually still be able to do a payoff where the kids get powers too, after they're fully integrated as a family. They could all just be trying to stop some kind of, disaster, like the bus situation. They don't need to be fighting somebody or fighting a bunch of weird Unreal Engine looking demon guys.
I think they did unfortunately kind of shoehorn themselves into having to have them transform when they settled on having the 7 deadly sins as part of the villain, because it does seem a little improbable for Shazam to fight not only Savannah but also the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah.
Maybe if they had just somehow given Savannah their powers but not had them themselves be
JoJo stands.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I don't think it's a terrible third act, and I don't think it brings the movie down so much, but compared to how excellent the pacing was in the first half of the film, it does kind of drag a bit, and it could have been better with less of this CGI superhero fighting.
Yeah, it was by far probably the weakest part of the movie for me.
Returning the Sins to their prison, they realize they can use the Rock of Eternity as their superhero headquarters. Billy finally accepts his foster parents and siblings as his real family. In his superhero form, he has lunch with his siblings at school, revealing to Freddy's surprise that he has also invited Superman, which was very funny. In theory, I love this scene. It calls back to Freddy being alone at the lunch table because Billy skipped out on him. However, Henry Cavill, as we know, is not in these movies anymore. After Justice League, Warner Brothers cut him out. They're done. So what do they do, Thomas?
Well, no. They claimed it was a scheduling conflict. I don't know how true that is. It doesn't seem to me like this isn't something that he could have just got on a plane and filmed in like a day because it's like one shot. But they show just his body with no head.
Yeah, they just show a torso, like from the neck down.
Didn't even get him to record lines or anything.
Nope, no voiceover, no recording remotely, which they definitely have done in these movies before and will continue to do. Yeah, it's just weird. It's distracting.
It would have been such a good scene too if it was actually him.
It would have been such a good scene, such a good payoff. Even as it is now in the movie, I don't hate it. I still like it as like a punchline to a joke, but it would have been more than that if they actually got the guy. And then we have the end credits scene, which I thought was...
With the mid-credits scene too.
Oh, right. Well, I was talking about the actual like animated credit sequence where we do see Superman and Batman and stuff, because we don't actually need the actors for that. So we get to see this off-screen development with Shazam and the Shazam family interacting with Batman and Wonder Woman. Maybe that's not supposed to be taken as real. Maybe it's just them fantasizing about it.
I don't think so.
I don't know. I like to imagine that it really happened.
You like to imagine that Shazam took Wonder Woman to prom?
Well, I think that might have been an exaggeration. In the credits, I was shocked to see that Dwayne Johnson was an executive producer because he's not even in the fucking movie, and he wanted nothing to do with Shazam.
In a mid-credits scene, the imprisoned Savannah is approached by a talking caterpillar who proposes an alliance between the two. And this is calling back to, we see this caterpillar earlier in the movie. I think it's when Savannah goes and then Billy sees the empty thing. But
yes.
And then a post-credit scene features silly banter between Shazam and Freddy.
Post-credit scene's fun, just a little jab at Aquaman. And that mid-credit scene, I'm very intrigued by this slug with the voice box. I don't know what that's about. I might have to look that up later, unless you could tell me right now who that character is.
Well, first of all, I will say he's voiced by David F. Sandberg.
Oh!
That's his voice. But he's called Mr. Mind. He's just like a really super smart caterpillar or something, but he's one of the big villains of Shazam.
He's actually a caterpillar? I thought that was like a little robot voice box attached to the caterpillar.
Yeah, he's a caterpillar with a robot voice box on him, so he can talk.
Okay, I thought the caterpillar was just a messenger. Okay, wow.
No.
That's fucking hilarious. Could you imagine the poster for the second movie in which they follow up on this, where the villain spot on the poster is just a caterpillar? So that's Shazam. Thomas, did you like the movie?
I did. It has a lot of heart to it, and it's really fun to just see like them mess around as kids who get access to superpowers. Obviously, I wasn't a huge fan of the third act, but I think that as a whole, the movie's pretty solid. It's probably not like the most rewatchable in its whole form, but like really those middle bits where they're really just fucking around I have really enjoyed that. I'd put it in the upper echelon of the DCEU. What about you?
Yeah, I love this movie. Out of the ones we've seen so far, it's probably the best, or if not the best, second best to Aquaman for me. It's a tighter movie. I mean, it drags a bit at the end, but it's got a great running start, and for the most part, it's just very exciting, great characterization, very fun. It's funny because, Warner Brothers has been running around this whole time like a like a Superman with his head cut off, because they don't know what to do. Like they started off with the Zack Snyder stuff, and it's dark and gritty and serious, and then they get cold feet and they completely go against David Ayer, and they make Suicide Squad this weird Borderlands-y thing in an attempt to make it more like Deadpool, and then Wonder Woman's got a lighter tone, but then with Suicide Squad, again, they go dark, and then they change their mind, and this is what they've wanted. This is what they wanted Justice League to be. It's very comedic, it's very light, it's family-friendly, it's very Marvel-ish. It's not because of studio interference, it's just because the project from the get-go is a kid's movie, and they just left the director to do his own thing, and they got something good out of it.
I think it's also a nice break, because you did kind of point out earlier, but, it's in like a normal city. The stakes aren't huge. It's pretty much grounded for the most part. Like, it's just kind of a small scale story that we're watching unfold. It's just a bit different from all these other movies.
It is 100% different than all these other movies, because you're right. When you compare this to the previous 6 movies, it's literally the only one that doesn't have world-ending stakes. It is refreshingly self-contained and relatively low stakes. Yeah, I really like Shazam. I'm with you. I think that the third act does drag a bit, but not enough to detract from the movie as a whole. So, normally this is when we talk about whether or not the movie worked, and we ask ourselves and each other a list of questions about the very odd choices that the studio would make, but there really isn't even something to discuss here in this week's case. It's a solo film about a character who wasn't part of Justice League. There's no controversial changes to the story or the characters or anything like that. No production scandals. When we get to Shazam 2, there's going to be some stuff, but at this point, it's just a very straightforward production.
That means we could just go on to the aftermath of the release.
That's right, Thomas. And when we look at the critical response, Shazam had a Rotten Tomatoes score of 90%, with an audience score of 82%. It's the only film besides Wonder Woman to have an audience score lower than the critics' score. But that being said, both of them are very high. I mean, a 90% critics score is way better than I was expecting.
It is tied for second highest Rotten Tomatoes score.
With what?
The Suicide Squad.
Okay, that was going to be my guess, yeah.
And Wonder Woman had 93, so that's the highest.
Okay, yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, I wouldn't put Wonder Woman above this, personally. But anyways, it had a Metacritic score of 71, and it has a cinema score of A, which is great. But it doesn't matter what we think, or what the critics said, or what the audience has said, because what talks louder than an audience is money.
Shazam had a reported budget of $90 to $100 million, which is by far the cheapest of the DCEU so far. The domestic opening weekend was $53.5 million, which is far and away the lowest opening weekend for a DC movie yet. The final totals ended up being $140.5 million domestic, $227.3 million international, for a total of $367.8 million, and it nabbed a net profit of $74 million. So, I mean, overall, it didn't make Aquaman money, but it still did net them pretty decent payday.
Yeah, $74 million's nothing to sneeze at, especially with the budget as low as this one. It's no surprise, like you said, when you're releasing this close to Avengers fucking Endgame, that you're not going to get the kind of box audience draw you got with Aquaman or most of the other movies. I looked at our documents, and the only film that grossed less before this was Man of Steel in terms of net profit. I think that was like 43 million profit. But still, that's nothing to complain about, and it's on them for mismanaging the release date.
Yeah, I also feel like I don't remember very much marketing at the time, so it's definitely possible they could have just not marketed as much either, because maybe they knew that they were just throwing it to die, kind of, so they're like, we'll just take whatever we can get.
And even if there was a lot of marketing, who the fuck would remember when the other commercials and ads at the same time are going to be for Avengers Endgame? I just don't get it. Even when they have success stories, they still fuck it up and self-sabotage. We would expect nothing less from this franchise at the Worlds of DC, which we didn't really talk about that too much in the last episode. Thomas, can I get your thoughts on the change from Justice League Universe to Worlds of DC?
It sounds just as bad. Worlds of DC makes me think of like a multiverse, but this is just like their universe. Like, Worlds of DC sounds like something that, like a convention they'd have, and they'd be like, welcome to the Worlds of DC.
Yeah, it sounds like the name of like the Six Flags DC section of the park. But anyway, that's Shazam.
While maybe not the home run they were hoping for after Aquaman, Shazam was still proven to be a worthy champion, with a profitable return and widespread critical acclaim and audience approval. With these last two films being back-to-back hits, it seemed that the franchise had finally stabilized. So, in an effort to keep their streak alive, Warner Bros. Would turn their attention to one of the franchise's few breakout characters, Harley Quinn. Thanks for listening. If you like this podcast, or if you hated it, please let us know in the comments, and give us 5 stars on whatever app you're listening on. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Happy holidays. Yeah, I mean, oh, hold on. I looked up Freddie Freeman, and he's a fucking baseball player for the Dodgers.
Yeah, he is.
God damn it. Fuck.